Medicaid is the fundamental payer of last resort for our most needy, most vulnerable citizens. And when we're unable to keep these programs alive because of fraudsters, it hurts all of us deeply. And that's what happened here in Minnesota.
Social services fraud is at the center of not one but two major stories in our state today. Welcome to Breaking the News. I'm Kent Erdahl in for Jana tonight, and we have a lot to get into. The day began with the culmination of years of investigation into the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. A judge sentencing the ringleader, Amy Bach, to more than 40 years in prison. And we'll get into that in detail in a few more minutes. But we begin with where that investigation has taken us. Today, federal officials announcing another 15 people charged with taking $90 million from 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs. Our Lou Raguse was at today's news conference and has been part of our I-Team's extensive reporting on several of the people charged today. And Lou, I want to start right there because how much of what we heard today is an extension of that reporting and investigation previously, and how much of it is brand new?
Right. So there were 15 people facing new charges today, and the announcement was made by a number of federal officials, including Dr. Oz and RFK Jr., who came into town for the first time from the Trump administration for something like this. But the 15 people are not all intertwined. These are different cases that they kind of held on to charge all at the same time in order to make a big splash. The loss total is $90 million, which is significant. But for example, these raids that we're seeing right now, these are the most recent raids that we covered. It wasn't from these, okay? Like it was from raids that happened in January was one of them. The autism raids actually happened in late 2024. And I've already covered the cases of the owners of the 2 autism clinics pleading guilty. And so there were more people within the same autism fraud scheme that were charged today. A lot of AJ's stories had suspects and defendants that he has been covering in the past. And then today they were finally charged.
So this then goes back to some of the investigators at the U.S. Attorney's Office who have since left. We talked about the mass exodus there earlier this year after Operation Metro Surge. So how do we heard today, this is just the beginning. So how do they plan to continue this and maybe go deeper?
Right. And so there have been, like we just saw, more raids that happened within the last couple of weeks. So there certainly are more charges to come. The U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen today telling me that he has staffed up and they are at where they were before those other prosecutors left. There had been some temporary prosecutors being flown in from around the country to help out, but now they're going to start a new office that's dedicated to looking into and prosecuting Medicaid fraud. It's something that already exists in Detroit and Chicago. Now they're going to have one here as well.
Now, the side effect of all of this, as we've reported on too, is that there's been the stop payments, right? Freezing federal funds in order to get this fraud tamped down. We know people are impacted by that. So where does that stand?
Well, Dr. Oz is the administrator of Medicaid on the national level, and he said today that he is still withholding that money because he's unhappy with the answers that he's gotten from Minnesota officials about what they're doing to prevent the fraud. He said that, well, his reasoning was that in Minnesota they have reserves, that there shouldn't be people that aren't getting the money, and they do plan on releasing that money once they get satisfactory answers.
All right. Now, you are also in the courtroom for Amy Bach's sentencing today. We mentioned that. We're going to have more on that when we come back from the break. Welcome back, and we're back with Lou tonight to break down the remarkable moment in federal court when a judge handed down a nearly 42-year prison sentence to Amy Bach. Now, she's the convicted ringleader of the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, which cost taxpayers $250 million. And Lou, I want to start with that moment in court because we saw a different side of Amy Bach than one you've interacted with.
Well, to be honest, I have seen this side as well because I've seen a lot of Amy Bach over the last couple of years. But she broke down crying, and I think that everyone who has been following this saw it as, okay, she's sorry that she got caught. She's sad that she has to go to prison. 41 years in prison is significant. In federal court, you have to serve 85% of that. She'll be in prison for at least 34 years. She's 45 right now. She'll be almost 80 years old before she's released from prison. And her responsibility in this, she signed the checks that came through Feeding Our Future from the taxpayer money to all the fraudsters. She signed $243 million worth of checks, allowing other people to get away with the fraud. Her personal gain was $5 million, but she is responsible through the court system for the full $243 million.
Now, you weren't the only one in court a kind of unique situation because we talked about some of those U.S. attorneys who left the office. They were in court watching?
Yes. Yeah, just about everybody that worked on this case was there and even spoke afterwards. But yeah, it was a collection of everyone that's been working on this case since the pandemic in 2021 when they began working on it. They were there to see Amy Bach sent to prison. And I think that the sentence was actually a little bit longer than some of them were anticipating.
All right, and really quickly, many more still due in court.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more sentences, and there still is about 10 people that still need to have their trial or plead guilty.
All right, I know you'll be on it. Thanks, Lou. We'll be right back.